Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw Countout. It's the top 10 weekly show that we do right here at
WWE.
YouTube.com/Steve Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found. We're also on the Patreon at patreon.com/Steve Larson. Tomorrow's SummerSlam, Larson.
It is.
Very exciting. We're going to be live streaming tonight. NXT TakeOver, our reactions to that.
Correct.
Sadly, WWE does not let us co-stream like the number one wrestling company in the world does, AAA.
AAA also will be doing the reaction live stream for SummerSlam tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Speaking of tomorrow, Sunday, our massive blowout sale going on at friendomarket.com concludes Sunday at the conclusions of SummerSlam.
I think it actually goes through Monday.
Maybe it goes through Monday. Anyway, it's happening. 25% off everything at friendomarket.com using the promo code BLOWOUT.
Yeah, blowout.
Blowout.
We got, I think we should have maybe plenty of more. I know we got plenty of logo shirts. We got plenty of
actually,
like
there's not a whole lot of logo shirts left back there, unless you have some at your place.
Yeah, all the ones that we took to Vegas, I brought with me.
Okay, then we should have plenty.
Home. So yeah, we got a bunch of those. We got a little bit of everything. We don't have sizes and everything necessarily, but go check it out. We got sticker packs. You can get 3, 6, 9, or 12 stickers in
Prints,
a pack.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah, prints. All sorts of stuff. And yeah, 25% out. It's kind of our Black Friday sale, but in
the summertime.
August. Yeah, the next time we're going to have a sale this deep is going to be in December.
Yes.
Or November, rather.
November, Black Friday, indeed. Speaking of SummerSlam, that's happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's talk SummerSlam, namely Weird SummerSlam. The WWE, they love their maybe overwritten storylines. Sometimes a lot kind of odd. They like their weird stipulations at times.
Yeah, SummerSlam has seemingly given Vince McMahon license to do weird stuff on the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. Like Mania, generally you close the show out with a happy ending. Mm-hmm. SummerSlam, not so much, especially lately.
Yeah, recent years, not so much. Let's recount some of these real quick. So in 2011, you had John Cena and CM Punk determining who true WWF champion is, WWE champion. Punk wins, only have Alberto Del Rio cash in on him after Kevin Nash comes in and drops him with a powerbomb.
That was weird and sad.
Yeah.
That was weird and sad. Because you think Kevin Nash, it's like, oh, cool. But then he had like dyed his hair so he looked more like Diesel, which was weird. It was just a little weird. And then on top of that, you just know that it's Nash, so it's like, oh, he's not going to be able to go very good.
Well, that was the idea, is that he was going to have a program with Punk. He wasn't cleared. And so Triple H ended up having the program with Punk.
That was all weird.
It was all weird.
That was all weird.
Not weird enough to make this list, though. Following year, Lesnar comes back. He has a program with Triple H. He beats him.
Is that the main event?
I don't think it was main event in 2012. 2013, of course, Daniel Bryan beats John Cena for the WWE title, only for Randy Orton to cash in on him right away. 2014, we'll get to more on that in a little bit. 2015... You got Taker and Lesnar.
Yeah, that Lesnar Triple H, because that was when Lesnar right when he came back, so he was hot.
2015, Taker and Lesnar. That was the match where Brock passed out to Hell's Gate while giving Taker the middle finger. Again,
weird, and not like you're not overwhelmingly excited or happy about that. It was just kind of weird.
Taker gets his win back after Brock beats him at Mania, pretty much is what it was. And then 2016... Lesnar again beats Orton, busts him open with a shoot elbow.
And this was like right before this was the Universal Championship match where Finn Balor, who everybody loved.
Yeah, people were crapping on that match because they were crapping on the belt.
Yeah,
live in person.
But still, that was a happy ending. I mean, people liked Finn winning, but then they decide to go ahead with a non-title matchup after that, where Brock splits open Randy Orton's skull.
Yeah,
and blood's everywhere, and it was just an awkward, weird match.
And then Shane gets involved, and he gets F5'd. It was a weird ending to the show.
Yeah.
And then 2018, not necessarily a bummer ending, but just a weird ending where Roman beats Brock after an absolute mess of a match where Braun was like, I'm going to cash in, but I don't know how. Brock throws the briefcase up the ramp. Braun leaves that show kind of looking like a chump.
Yeah.
Roman has to have all sorts of weird stuff going on to win the title off Brock.
I think it was like supposed to. No, I think like what was supposed to have been like Vince originally wanted that to be kind of like a happy ending, like the idea of Roman beating Brock.
They couldn't end that show fast enough.
They couldn't. Yeah, I know, and I think that's what they realized. Like whenever they decided to pull the trigger on that ending, which is probably same day. like, halfway during the show. They were just like, yeah, we just need to hightail it out of here.
And I kind of feel like it was all set to be a bait and switch.
Regardless, I don't think it was meant to be like this awesome, happy moment.
It wasn't supposed to be a coronation, no.
No, it wasn't.
No.
But anyways, we got 10 weird SummerSlam matches that maybe top all those. Let's hop right into it, Larson.
Yes.
Number 10.
10.
Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, 2014.
Correct.
Yeah, 2 years after Brock returned. This was a couple months after, of course, WrestleMania, where Brock beat Undertaker.
Yeah.
To end Undertaker's streak. Let's go back to
WrestleMania streak. Yes.
One. There we go.
Yes. So John Cena had won the undisputed title at Money in the Bank after Daniel Bryan had to vacate the title due to injury.
Yeah.
And so Cena, he was Mr. WWE. Lol, Cena wins.
Yeah, of course.
He basically won everything.
Yeah.
And if he lost, it was highly competitive.
Correct.
And we had never seen John Cena get manhandled.
No.
To the degree he did in this match
He
against
looked
Brock.
like a local enhancement talent.
He did. Within 30 seconds, Brock drops him with the F5. Cena kicks out.
Crowd gasps.
Yeah, I remember watching it and gasping.
Yeah.
It was a level of brutality we're not used to seeing in WWE.
It was very uncomfortable.
And it involved like WWE superhero John Cena.
It was very much akin to Superman 2.
Yes.
When Superman was depowered.
Yeah.
And had to deal with, Zod and Non and all that.
And Ursa. Yeah.
Ursa.
Yeah.
It was very akin to that.
Yeah. It
or
was.
even when depowered Clark Kent went into the diner.
And got beat up by a truck driver.
Pro wrestler truck driver.
Yeah. But although it didn't have the screwball bit where he gets slid down the bar of the diner.
Right, that Richard Lester added in.
Yeah.
Anyways, what was it? 15 F5s? What was
16 German suplexes, 2 F5s.
Yeah.
It was 16 minutes of Brock Lesnar destroying John Cena.
Yeah, all very uncomfortable. The crowd was like, what are we watching right now? Which, everybody at home was too.
Yeah, and it got to the point where it was like, okay, Lesnar, just put Cena out of his misery.
It was one of those things where it was like... It was like 2K19 where you have the weird negative sign.
Yeah.
But no, it was one of those things where you knew that you were watching something, for better or worse, something pretty special. It's like every once in a while Vince will put together one of these things that it's like truly shocking.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you spent the last 12 years building up John Cena to be the most undefeatable guy.
Well, Cena wins.
Yeah, exactly. And then for Brock Lesnar to come in, and he's now got powers of darkness, we're to assume, because he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He comes in and just squashes John Cena like a bug.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It seems to have a great time doing it.
Yeah, and it felt it was like Lesnar was super scary. Like it was terrifying.
Yeah, he was.
So and then of course, and honestly, they still do to this day. It's been 5 years. Got a lot of mileage out of that Brock Lesnar stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're milking that, and they're going to milk it. We'll see if they're going to milk it past tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, they are.
So yeah,
I feel like they are.
Yeah, I think they will too.
Yeah, I think they will.
Although
too.
we don't have any we don't have any confirmation on what Lesnar's contract status is like right now.
Mm-mm.
Didn't the last thing we heard he might have signed another deal with WWE?
Yeah, after Mania, right?
Yeah, something like that. Anyways, let's move right ahead. Number 9. Bret Hart versus Doink the Clown.
This is SummerSlam 1993. This is weird on a variety of levels. Namely, if you get down to the ongoing issues between Bret and Hulk Hogan around this time, as Bret would tell it, this was supposed to be the show. SummerSlam 93 was supposed to be Bret's coronation.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be when he beat Hogan for the title.
Yeah.
And was the undisputed top guy in the company. However, pay-per-view prior, King of the Ring 93 is when Hogan decided to drop the title, not to Bret, to Yokozuna, and then right off into the sunset, at least for about a year, before showing up at WCW. W Steve W. So instead of Bret winning the title at this show, he's mired in a feud with Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
Lawler attacks him at the conclusion of King of the Ring 93, at least the tournament itself, when Bret won, proclaiming himself the only true king of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So WWF.
That was his nickname, Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah. Although he took it far more literally in WWF than he did in Memphis.
Let me ask you something. So I know when you've often said that, when you were a kid.
Yeah.
to you, wrestling was one thing. It was WWF. You
Yeah.
didn't really know about
Anything
NWA,
else.
WCW, right?
Much less Mid-South, any of the other
When
stuff.
they brought Jerry the King Lawler in, were people expected to know like the legend of Jerry the King Lawler?
Well, I think,
If you were a kid, like you were a teenager by then,
yeah.
would you have been like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even a couple of years prior to this, when Ric Flair came to WWF,
You're like, who's
there's
this
a lot of
guy?
people like, who the hell is this Flair guy?
Why does he have a weird
Where's all his muscles?
Why is he so saggy? Why does he have a pixelated title?
Yeah.
Why is he calling it the real world title?
Yeah.
This is really confusing.
It was all really confusing. I don't know if my case was isolated or there's a lot of people. In
Sam
my
Roberts
camp.
claimed the same thing.
Yeah,
on his podcast.
where in the 80s and 90s, if you weren't made aware of any other wrestling, WWF was wrestling.
Right. Yeah.
And there was no other promotion. So if Ric Flair come on my screen and be like, "What's that title? That's not WWF title. Who's this guy?
What's this trash?
He doesn't look like Hogan or Sid."
Where did his muscles go?
Yeah, where does muscles go? Did he leave his muscles in his other promotion? He took the belt but left his muscles? Anyways, so I remember listening to, I can't remember which episode it was, or something to wrestle with, where Pritchard was talking about the Bret Hart Lawler feud. And of course, this is around the new generation. And so he was saying something like, yeah, we were focusing on all this new, younger talent. And Connor's like, hold on. Lawler's like 40 here.
God, is he our age there?
Maybe.
I can't tell if he looks older or younger than us.
I mean, he'd already been wrestling for a very long time. He'd already won like 300 titles in Memphis.
Right.
So he was born in 49. So he'd been 44.
Okay. So, yeah.
43. He's
Around
actually
the same
43
age.
when this goes down. So it's early 90s WWE is just a weird time period.
It's so weird.
It's super weird.
It's bizarre. There's like 2 1993 SummerSlams on this list.
Oh, matches from that? Yeah.
Matches, yeah.
So Bret is scheduled to take on Lawler at this show. Bret comes to the ring.
Which is, by the way, a huge step. I know, to the people of Memphis, maybe it's not a huge step down from Hulk Hogan, but obviously competing for the title against Hulk Hogan and being coronated the face of the company, and then having to instead fight
a mid-card feud against a newly arriving Jerry Lawler.
Right, exactly.
So Lawler comes out, and he's on crutches. He's got ice on his knee, like a knee brace, and says, so I showed up here in Detroit, went to the rental car, rented a limousine, and was driving it, which defeats the purpose of renting a limousine. If you rent a limousine, you have someone drive it for you. Anyway, so he says he was leaving the airport, the parking lot of the rental car place, got on the freeway. Someone cut him off, caused a huge accident, and thus he was injured. He said, nothing's going to keep me from wrestling. But then the doctors backstage said I couldn't wrestle. Instead, and you have Owen Hart and Bruce Hart sitting ringside. They're mad. They're super mad.
I feel like they did that a lot in the 90s.
They really did.
There were a lot of Hearts at ringside being mad.
There always was.
Yeah.
The following, when Owen and Bret were feuding,
The whole family
same
was
thing.
at
Yeah.
ringside, mad.
Stu, Helen, all of them. Doug, all the Harts.
Stu is the most appropriate name for that guy.
Yeah.
He looks like a guy who just stews.
Yeah, I know. So Lawler introduces the man who's going to replace him in the match, his court jester, Doink the Evil Clown. And so Owen and Bruce, they hop the guardrail. They're mad. They're like trying to fight somebody. I think Lawler and refs are holding them back.
Yeah.
Match happens. And like, Bret, if you think you should be the face of the company, you should be having 9-minute matches with Doink.
Yeah, this should have lasted all like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
He, slaps the sharpshooter on and, leg sweeps sharpshooter, and you're good to go. That's
Yeah.
it. And then you can get a move on. This is a long match. Doink got a lot of offense in.
Yeah, it's 9 minutes of match. It should not have lasted that long. And part of it was like Bret is distracted by Lawler ringside. Still, it should not have been. It should have been like a third of that. So Bret finally gets Doink in the sharpshooter. Lawler comes in, clubbers him with a crutch shot like around his neck.
Oh, that looked
like it hurt.
bad. It looked bad.
So Lawler and Doink are walking up the ramp. Out comes Jack Tunney. Jack Tunney says, no, you go back there. You have this match against Bret. Match happens. Bret puts Lawler in the sharpshooter. Lawler taps. Calls for the bell. Bill Alfonso's the ref. And then Bret won't release the hold, so the decision is reversed. Lawler wins by DQ.
Yeah.
It's just an overbooked mess.
Yeah, and then the bottom line is when you look it up on Wikipedia, it just says Jerry Lawler beats Bret Hart. Granted, I know it says by disqualification, but still, it's like Bret technically loses that match. Yeah, that whole entire thing is such a massive step down from what they.
This feud kept on going too.
Yeah,
it was the following Survivor Series where it was like Team Lawler with all the Doinks.
Yeah,
against it just kept on going.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
It went on forever, seemingly.
It's absolutely bizarre,
and it's just a weird. It's just weird. A weird situation Bret found himself in instead of competing for the top title in the company.
I mean, it took him until the next Mania to do that. This was, of course, the SummerSlam where another title match took place, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But first, before that, we do have another Hart on this list.
Yes.
And he's at number 8. Number 8.
8.
Ken Shamrock versus Owen Hart in the Lion's Den.
Lion's Den match. So, of course, Lion's Den is what Ken Shamrock called his fight camp. I believe it was here in Sacramento at the time. That's where he's built from.
That's where he's built from.
And so WWE, I don't remember if this was before or after Brawl for All, thought, okay, we just had Owen versus Ken in a Stu Hart dungeon match.
Yeah.
The pay-per-view prior, fully loaded, I believe you said.
Yes.
So let's follow that up since that was in Owen's wheelhouse in the basement gym where he learned how to wrestle.
He knows those walls better than anybody.
Yes. Let's have one in on Ken Shamrock's home turf, so to say.
Yeah.
So they built kind of like an octagon-shaped structure, except it was shaped more like a cone, so it was rounder and not quite so, geometric in its obvious octagon shape. And it was wider at the top than it was at the floor.
Yeah.
And above the cage, on kind of like a catwalk that encircled the entire cage, was the referee. Referee was not in the ring. They claimed the ring was too small to accommodate a referee.
Which it did. They had some like over the top shots of it.
Yeah, the actual floor was really small.
It was very small.
So you have the structure that's supposed to mimic the UFC octagon. And so do you have a shoot-style wrestling match? A shoot-style MMA match in this structure? No. You essentially have a pro wrestling match.
Yeah, they were doing things like Irish whips, but into the cage.
Like people were bouncing off and trying to run, but there's no momentum. There was like suplexes.
So what I noted during the match was there is the idea in MMA, of course, of being able to intelligently defend yourself. That's if I'm on top of Larson pummeling his face.
I have my hands up.
And you're intelligently defending yourself. If your hands are down here and I'm just wailing away on that face
That's
of
when the
yours,
ref comes in and calls it TKO.
It gets me out. He's like, he's not able to intelligently defend himself anymore. Well, of course, in wrestling, you can sit there and just be doing, punching them in the face. And if they're doing this, it's all good because they're fake punches. And apparently that's not a big deal.
But of course, there's no referee in the actual structure to come in and intervene and stop the match if someone can't intelligently defend themselves.
Right. Yeah.
So anyways, and then, Dan Severn was also Owen Hart's trainer for this match.
Didn't he? Oh, he was the ref for the Lions. No, the dungeon match. That's right. Yeah. So he was heavily involved in this. This feud oddly all goes back to there was like a weird confluence of feuds because when I was doing my research on it, I don't really remember this that much, even though I know we were all watching at the time.
I remember watching this one.
It goes back. I remember watching this. I just don't remember the feud that led to it prior to the Lions Den. Like I remember bits and pieces. But it all had to do with King of the Ring because Shamrock
won King of the Ring,
was King of the Ring. Triple H was a King of the Ring winner. And Owen Hart, of course, a couple of years prior, 94, was King of the Ring winner. And so they all got into a thing together, and then those rivalries sort of split up. Triple H started taking on The Rock, and then these two started facing off, and you get Dan Severn in there, who obviously is a legend in MMA.
Well, he and Shamrock had their own battles in UFC as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so you get him involved. And yeah, they had this Lion's Den thing. This was filmed. So SummerSlam 98 was at Madison Square Garden.
And there's a theater underneath the main arena.
Yeah.
And that's where this match took place.
Yeah, that's where this was. And then, like we were talking about, it was more like a pro wrestling match. There wasn't really a whole lot of actual MMA stuff beyond the MMA type stuff that Ken Shamrock really sort of incorporated into his own wrestling moveset.
Yeah, totally.
But it was weird. It was, like you said, it was a cone. It was just kind of bizarre.
Rather than getting a shoot-style match, it was just, as I put here, a pro wrestling match in a funnel. Mm-hmm. It looked like it was a funnel.
Yeah. It says in your notes here it was revisited the following year.
Yeah, Shamrock had a Lions Den match the following year against Steve Blackman. They had some sort of partnership going into this match against Owen, but the second one had weapons involved.
So, I'm sorry, who won this Lions Den match?
Ken Shamrock did. Owen tapped out to ankle lock. Okay. Severn was about to throw in the towel and just walked away.
That's kind of rad.
He was over Owen Hart.
And then who won the Blackman match?
Oh, I don't know.
Probably Shamrock. I mean, you'd think
this is his gimmick.
Freaking Lions Den match.
His gimmick match, yes.
All right. Anyways, moving on. Number 7. Team WWE versus Team Nexus. This was SummerSlam 2010.
Correct.
Of course, this was the big Nexus storyline when they debuted on Monday Night Raw back in 2010, destroying everything. Daniel Bryan destroyed Justin Roberts' neck.
Which, for a brief moment, destroyed Daniel Bryan's WWE career.
Yeah, but for like the 15th time that year, they brought him back. Of course, this was John Cena. I always thought this was actually Team Cena. But this is Team WWE. Wasn't Bret Hart on his team here? Who else was on his team?
Jericho, John Morrison, Bret Hart, Edge.
What a weird
Cena.
What a weird conglomerate there.
There's one other person that escapes me. And, of course, Team Nexus led... Oh, Daniel Bryan was on Team WWE.
That's right.
He came back as Team WWE.
Him back for that, yeah.
And then, of course, Team Nexus, Wade Barrett, Ryback.
We should do a list on, like, the top 10 wrestlers that are, like, oddly liked by Vince McMahon. You know, like, Kevin Owens never came off to me like a Vince McMahon guy. It is obvious. Well, it's been obvious since day one that he's been a big Vince McMahon guy.
If Hulk Hogan's be believed during the Stone Cold podcast, he's kind of the one that put the spotlight on Kevin Owens. He's like,
oh, I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, he's like, yeah, I was watching some of Kevin Owens NXT stuff, and I was really impressed, and so no one else was really high on him in WWE. And so I talked to some people. Like Kevin Owens' second match in NXT, he won the title. His debut, he beat C.J. Parker, Juice Robinson now.
Yeah.
And the end of that show, when Sami Zayn beat Neville for the NXT title, Kevin Owens laid him out.
They put him in the main event scene
immediately.
Literally immediately.
His second match, pretty much. At least the second takeover match was for the title, and he won.
Wow. Yeah, Triple H was huge on Kevin Owens.
I don't think Hulk Hogan had any input on anything.
Well, okay, back up, though. See, I know. You got to take pretty much everything Hogan says with a grain of salt. Except, Vince probably listens to Hogan a little bit.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to this. So, this has been examined, analyzed, several different ways.
Oh, one thing I was
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, one thing. I don't mean to cut you off. One thing I was going to mention about Ken Shamrock. I didn't realize this. He's got now the Lions Den Ministries.
Oh, he's a minister?
Yeah. Not only is Ken Shamrock a legendary cage fighter who's known as the world's most dangerous man, he's also a God-fearing Christian with a ministry to help troubled youth. He is the founding father of Lions Den Ministries, a non-for-profit that serves as a mouthpiece to troubled youth and young adults. That's really cool. I think that's fantastic. Good for him.
Good for Ken Shamrock.
Anyways, I'm sorry. Getting back to
this. This match has been picked apart all sorts of different ways. There's essentially the idea that John Cena single-handedly buried the Nexus. I think that's been more or less firmly established.
Yeah.
We have two different takes here with some notes and some quotes. You picked out some stuff from Wade Barrett. I picked out some stuff from the leader of C-Nation himself. If you want to handle the Wade Barrett stuff, read through this, at least, or if not the whole thing, the salient bits, and I'll cover the Cena stuff.
Counterpoint. Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, like we said, for one thing, this was an inside the ropes interview. They do those awesome, like, QA things. And then the transcript here is courtesy of All-in-One Sports. So the question was posed, as part of the Nexus, you beat Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, beat Vince McMahon, and very chivalrously, that's a hard word to say, beat up Bret Hart. But then came a great fight at SummerSlam 2010, Nexus versus Team WWE, and we all thought Nexus was going to win, but John Cena was the last one to survive. Did you guys think you were going to win that, or that John Cena and the other team were going to get
upstairs?
We're going to get upstairs or upset. Upstairs, upset. Anyways, Wade Barrett said this. Not only did we think we were going to win, as this was the first test of this killer group we had, it was our first test, and it was against the WWE superstars. We were newbies, and we had a lot of hatred of part of the public, and we believed that it was our opportunity to demonstrate our credibility and that we were going to win. And then we asked him, why is John Cena winning? We really need to win this fight. Arn Anderson put his hand up and said, as if swearing, this has nothing to do with me. They'll have to go and talk to Vince about this. So trying to talk to Vince on a pay-per-view day or a day where there's a TV show is difficult. So we spent almost an hour following him and waiting outside his office to be able to talk to him. And we talked to him and we said, Vince, we have this situation. We have just been told that John Cena is going to win and leave as a figure of the fight. We think it's a bad idea and we have to be victorious. I'm sort of like a little suspicious on this transcript, but if you just get the gist of it,
get the gist of it, yes.
Yeah. He said, Vince looked me in the eye and said, the reason we're going to do that is because SummerSlam needs to have a happy ending. So earlier in this episode, we illustrated literally the last 7 years, dating back to right after this. He says, I wanted the children to go home happy, and against that point, you cannot do anything.
Can't argue that point.
You can't. Oh, you can't. Okay. He said, from that moment on, I knew they were lying to me. It was a meaningless response, and to this day, I still believe it was a terrible idea, and I do not think you're going to find someone with a certain level of rationality who says that was a correct decision. Now, counterpoint John Cena.
Okay, so this is at some event called The Evening with John Cena. It took place in Australia in 2017. Transcripts are from Wrestling Inc. So he was asked about this. Quote, this has been a topic of debate amongst really hardcore WWE fans for quite some time because it's their sentiment that I should have lost that match. Why did I win that match? Because that is what we did. It's difficult for me to blur the lines on this, but I show up to work and do what I'm told. I will give you the gratification of this. I don't pick how the story is told. I get told that, but I do pick what goes on in the story.
So extrapolate. What do you think he means with that?
I don't pick how the story is told, but I do get pick what goes on in the story.
So I think what he's saying is he doesn't pick who wins and loses, but he is integral in telling that story. That's how I read it.
I kind of feel like he's saying he's kind of contradicting himself. I don't pick how the story is told, but I do pick what goes on in that story.
I don't pick how the story is told. I get told that.
So I think what he's saying is he doesn't get told the nature of the storytelling of the story, but he does get to pick the individual story beats. Right.
So I think he shows up and they say, well, here's John. This is the story that we want to tell. The Nexus is this hot upcoming thing. Let's say Vince was telling the truth, which I doubt, to Wade Barrett. And he wants SummerSlam to have a happy ending. He goes to John Cena and says, hey, John, we're going to have a happy ending for the kids. So what's going to happen is Nexus is going to come out really strong. Then you're going to take on the last two guys, and you're going to stay standing. And then John probably is the guy who produces the match at that point.
Well, him and Arn's his guy, was his guy.
Right, yeah.
Anyways, he continues. In that particular moment, it was too much. I think if presented another way, it could have been a little more palatable, sorry. But I can't change the television show. I've never had that power, and that's something I don't do. If you look at a laundry list of my opponents, you can tell that is exactly how I operate. I guessed wrong on the way that the story was told, and I guess that's why people are so up in arms about it. But we tell so many stories, I was wrong once.
So extrapolate that, please.
Well, he says, I guessed wrong on the way that story was told. So maybe in his mind, he thought, if I win at SummerSlam, that'll help the end goal of getting the Nexus over.
Yeah.
So maybe in his mind, he thought, if I win here, down the line, they can get their win back in some dramatic fashion. Mm-hmm. In the end, they'll be over even more.
Yeah.
Or seen as more of a threat, something like that. Yeah. Didn't work out that way.
No, it didn't. I mean, after this, they did try to tell more story. This wasn't the
it went on for a while. And of course, then there was that match where Cena literally buried Wade Barrett under a pile of chairs.
Yeah, at a certain, I think that was
at TLC.
Yeah,
as a blow off or something.
I think that's when Cena, because Cena he was forced to join the Nexus. I think up to that point. So that's kind of interesting that even he does. I mean, regardless, what he's saying is very abstract. You can try to figure it out.
He's kind of he's talking around the question.
Yeah.
Talking around an answer.
But the bottom line is he did seem to regret the end result of that, even though it seemed pretty obvious from everybody's standpoint how that really should have gone. You keep the bad guy hot as you can possibly do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it was just sort of weird, and it was the ultimate Lol Cena wins moment.
Yes. Yes.
What do you got there? What are you looking up there?
This is what Edge had to say about it. He's on Talk as Jericho. This is back in 2013. So Jericho asked him.
There was a Talk as Jericho in 2013.
Yeah, man. So Jericho, this is from Cage Side Seats, says it was Team WWE versus Team Nexus. Finish boiled down to you and me. We were in there, Cena against a couple of them. John wanted to do things a certain way, and we told him, you're wrong. Remember that? And he did it anyways, and it sucked. And then afterwards, he came over to us and said, I should have listened to you, but I wasn't seeing it that way. And sometimes you just don't see it that way, And Edge responds, it's one of those things where he was adamant about what he wanted to do. And I remember I was like, fine, I'm out of the match by that point. Jericho says, exactly. I want to get He wanted to get DDT'd on the floor by Barrett and then kick out and beat them both. And you and I were like, that's the dumbest thing. That's just like throwing it away for no reason. Edge responds, they should have gone over because they were so hot. Jericho says, we were fighting for Barrett to go over. And in all fairness, words Wade Barrett now, they should have listened to us.
Yeah. Man, how long has Jericho been doing talking?
Forever. At least 6 years.
That article, seriously, from 2013?
That's what his date is.
Here we go. December. That was one of the first ones. Yeah, it says here, December 4th, 2013, announcement, Fozzy singer Chris Jericho launches Talk is Jericho podcast.
Wow.
I had no idea he was doing that.
Doing it forever, man.
My goodness. Anyways. Yeah, interesting stuff. Number 6. Kane versus Matt Hardy.
The SummerSlam 2004 is a Till Death Do Us Part match, as you can see by the photograph here if you're watching it on YouTube. You can tell who won. Stipulation, this match won the match, got to marry Lita.
Well, that looks like Kane marrying Alita there.
Yeah, so he won the match.
Matt Hardy, not surprising that he did the broken stuff, given how many very dramatic soap opera-ish storylines he was a part of. Of course, the year prior to this, he had a grudge match with Edge over the real life.
It was after this.
I think, what year was this?
2004. Wasn't the Edge stuff?
Oh, I'm sorry. 2005 was Edge. Yeah. I'm sorry. It was the year after. He was in the grudge match with Edge over the real life stuff with Edge, Lita, and Matt Hardy.
Yeah. This wasn't real. This was all soap opera stuff.
Yeah.
So apparently after WrestleMania 20, Kane lost to Undertaker. Kane became smitten with Lita. Lita was like, no.
I think Matt Hardy had said by the time they got to the match the next year, like I swear I thought he said something along the lines of that Edge and Lita weren't even a couple anymore. Like that stuff was so far, had already run its course in real life, and that's why Matt Hardy was totally fine coming back to do it, even though Edge apparently was a bit. That's what I saw in some Matt Hardy thing, but also he's been known to blur the truth in his own social media posts and his vlog stuff from back in the day. So I'm not sure. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, so in May of 2004, Kane kidnapped Lita, and then shortly thereafter, Lita announced that she was pregnant and assumed that Matt Hardy, her boyfriend, was the father. However, there was a paternity test done. Matt was not the father, so I guess that meant that Kane had to be the father.
Well, that makes sense. It's like a Jerry Springer thing.
Yeah. And so they had a match in 2004, as I mentioned, SummerSlam 2004, Until Death Do Us Part. Winner got to marry Lita, and Kane did that, photographed here. August 23rd episode of Raw. And then Snitsky got involved in the whole thing. He had a match with Kane. Kane fell on Lita. They were worried about a miscarriage. Eventually, at some point, Snitsky did kick a baby.
Yeah, he drop kicked or no punted.
Punted. I mean,
yeah.
still a kick.
Yeah. What do you call it when? Yeah, that's a punt.
It's a punt when you
punt.
drop it. And kick
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you drop something and kick it. That's a punt. Yes. So yeah,
that is pretty weird.
It's all weird.
They were big on around this time. They were really big on the more soap opera-esque elements. I mean, heading into sort of like the early days of the.
This is all ruthless aggression era stuff. Was very soap opera-y.
Yeah, but I mean, in the earlier days of it, like even a couple years before this, I mean, I don't remember them being so heavy on the soap opera stuff. It was more like, hey, who's gonna grab that brass ring type thing. But they really, especially with Matt Hardy, they really started diving into the soap opera stuff. Yeah, like kids being born. Of course, obviously, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. We've got custody battles being fought over in ladder matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, all sorts of crazy stuff going on.
For the actual match, Lita was firmly behind Matt. She wanted him to win.
Well, yeah.
So much so that she tossed the ring bell in there, distracted the ref. Matt clocked Kane with the ring bell. He got his foot in the rope. And then Matt tries to do like a DDT off the top rope. Kane just grabs him. Actually, it was a really awesome choke slam off the top. Picked up the win. And then upset, dejected Lita just like runs backstage. And Kane's just in the ring laughing and smiling.
In the end, I kind of think that Lita, had she remained married to Kane, probably would have been a good decision on her part, given that he is a hot up and coming star.
But what if they don't see
the
eye
world
to
of politics.
eye politically? That could cause issues.
You got Mary Madeline and James Carville.
I'm not saying it can't work.
Yeah.
Are they still married?
I never see them anymore. I don't really watch political shows anymore. It's too depressing.
I don't know if he's on political shows anymore.
They're both kind of old.
Yeah.
Let's find out. Let's see if
James Carville and
James Carville. Let's see here. Spouse? Yeah, Mary Madeline. Still to this day. Yep.
there you go.
Oh, that's funny. She's not even a Republican anymore. She's a libertarian. Not surprising. Oh, wow. She was named PETA's Person of the Year. Good for her. Because the organization cited her willingness to fight for the humane treatment of monkeys and farm animals. That's cool. That's nice. That's nice. Fight for those monkeys and farm animals.
And animals of all types.
Oh, man. Anyways, moving on. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to drink water. Number 5.
Number 5.
5.
Oh, this is great.
Oh, this is the best.
The Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan. This had to have been the most public high-profile. They were on the poster. This was advertised.
It's the main event of the show.
As like dream. Did it actually close out the show?
Yeah.
As like the ultimate dream match. And of course, HBK spent the entire match just trolling the crap out of one Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Tell us why, Larson.
So I guess it was originally pitched as a babyface versus babyface, legend versus legend match, like we've seen countless times. No heel, no heel in the equation. Just two legends saying, "All right, let's see who's the best." Essentially, except Hogan didn't want it that way. He wanted to be the face. He wanted to get cheers from the crowd.
Well, wasn't it also pitched as a three?
I'm getting to that.
Okay, sorry.
So Hogan wanted HBK to turn heel, and HBK was in the midst of like a really good heel run, and so he's like, "Well, I don't really want to do this, but all right." And so as you mentioned, it was supposed to be 3 matches with Hogan winning this one at SummerSlam, HBK winning the next one, and then having a rubber match down the line. However, Hogan said no to that as well. He wanted to go over clean in their lone battle. HBK was dropping all sorts of great scathing shoot-style promos about Hogan, and talking about his politicking, how he was old, he couldn't do anything. It was also during this program where HBK had that promo in Montreal, referencing left and right the screw job.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Trolling the crap.
Oh, heck yeah, man, it was great.
It was awesome.
And then, according to various accounts, Hogan either had approved of these promos beforehand, and then ended up complaining anyways to management about the content of these promos, or didn't approve and complained to management about the content of these promos.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a mystery. Regardless, HBK, as you mentioned, oversold throughout the whole match, making a mockery of Hogan, making him look like a massive a-hole.
Yeah.
But then HBK relatively recently said that he didn't take it upon himself to do that. Management said, "Hey, we want you to wrestle like you did in 1997."
When did he say that?
Here, I'll find it again.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it's because by 2005.
So this was in 2018. Oh, it's during an Inside the Ropes thing.
Oh, okay. Those are so great.
This is from Sportskeeda. This is kind of paraphrasing. Shawn swore that he had not gone into business for himself. He said that WWE's top officials told him they wanted him to be Shawn Michaels in 1997, and Shawn said that was how the 1997 Shawn Michaels sold moves in a lot of his matches.
So I wonder if this is pure speculation on my part. I'm trying to piece this together. I wonder if they said, "Hey," if Vince said, "Hey, we really want you to, sell like you used to sell 1997, right?" Maybe HBK was thinking back to, back in 1997, I was a bit of an a-hole, right?
Uh-huh.
And so he was thinking,
this is how it would have sold for Hogan in 1997.
He's like, who did I really hate in 1997? Probably Bret Hart. I wonder, I can't remember if Shawn Michaels ever, God, I want to say he did. Obviously he was like the biggest troll there was in 1997. When it came to his actual matches, like, for example, with Bret Hart, like, he sold like it was real. Like,
Yeah.
He was like one of those dudes. Like,
he was a very dramatic and I've heard people argue over the top seller in his first run, but never cartoonish.
No, I don't think he even in my personal opinion. Granted, I never made best of HBK tapes like you did.
Yeah.
However,
I'm the authority here.
You are. However, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember. I always thought that his Dolph Ziggler, the guy that it's always compared to him, and even right
selling
now,
ability,
and the selling ability. I always felt that Dolph was like borderline cartoonish, and that's what separated him and Shawn Michaels. With Shawn Michaels, I always felt like his selling was actually fairly believable.
Shawn,
it was just very dramatic.
It was dramatic. Shawn sold the way he did, I think, in his first one, especially to make you think that the offense of his opponent hurt him.
Yeah, right.
Whereas I feel like Dolph, when he sells like that, he's just showing off that he can sell really well.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you never get the sense when Dolph sells that he's actually being hurt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, sometimes they can make for very dramatic matches like the Survivor Series.
Now, I know people compare Dolph selling to Michaels. I think the more appropriate and truer analogy would be someone like AJ Styles.
Yes.
Because AJ sells, and you get a sense that he's hurt.
Or Mustafa Ali.
Yeah, they're willing to throw their bodies all over the place, but it's all to show that their opponent's offense is hurting them.
Yes.
Make their opponents look good.
Yeah.
And I think Dolph sells. I feel like I'm not going to suggest I know what's in the man's head. I feel like Dolph sells to make himself look good.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
I don't believe for when was the Inside the Ropes thing? What year was
it? This right up from 2017.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, man. It might be the case. It might be the case where they said, hey, we want you to be really dramatic with your selling like you were back in 1997, like you were back during your first run. And he was like, so wait, now, first off, I'm not going to get 2 more matches. Second off, this is Hogan, and he's being kind of a dick.
Third, I had to turn heel. Just for this match when I was in the midst of a pretty good face run.
Yeah. And now you're telling me how to wrestle even? You're telling me how to do all that stuff? Fine. You want that? I'll give you that. Mm-hmm. And then he goes out there and he just cartoonishly oversells everything. Yeah. I wonder if that was just him proving a point and trolling.
Oh, yeah.
In any event, that was a huge troll job. I don't care what he said 2 years ago. He was trolling the crap out of Hulk Hogan.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
Oh, that's great.
And it's amazing.
It is absolutely very
amazing.
It is amazing. It is great. And you can tell Hulk Hogan, it's just like...
Well, he does a thing... I know he does it during matches when things are going according to plan, but he holds his fist up and he looks around. And I think he's trying to act befuddled.
Yeah.
But it seemed very genuine in this instance.
Hulk Hogan. Maybe he thought for a second that he had that much power.
Maybe. Power of Hulkamania. It's coursing through his veins.
It is, man. It does run wild from time to time.
He took his vitamins that morning.
It is hilarious how big of a troll job on just the biggest stage. The biggest stage.
It's great.
Yeah,
it's so great.
Pretty awesome. Number 4. Lex Luger versus Yokozuna.
So there was a time where it seemed like they were grooming the man formerly known as a narcissist to be the heir apparent to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
As top babyface. They had the Lex Express. He was touring the whole country in his custom bus.
Well, things fell apart with Sid. Sid was going to be, he was groomed.
We'll get more of that later, too.
We'll get more on that later, yeah.
He was going to be groomed as a new top guy, but instead of being a massive babyface and making tons of money, Sid decided, I'd rather be a heel. That's kind of the long and short of it. Luger seemed cool with being groomed to be the top babyface of the company. He did the whole tour. They had a body slam challenge on the deck of the USS Intrepid, I believe, the aircraft carrier. Luger showed up in a helicopter to much fanfare and much drama and body slammed Yokozuna, setting up this match.
Which, by the way, people massively popped for when he did that.
Yeah. And so you have Yokozuna as your WWE champion after beating Hogan at King of the Ring against Luger, coming off a relatively recent face turn because of the previous WrestleMania. He was a narcissist. We came out with all the women with the mirrors and all that stuff.
Their butts all hanging out.
That was just a couple months prior to this.
Right. This is a complete rebranding.
Yeah, totally. And so he comes into this match. He wins.
Or, given that it's an American angle, do you think this is a natural evolution of narcissist to pure American? I'm sorry. Anyways, go ahead.
I guess case could be made. He wins via countout.
Yeah.
He hits, I believe, Yokozuna with the elbow. Yokozuna goes flying out of the ring. He just stands there and gets the count out. Problem is, you don't win the championship on a count out in WWF. No. Yet the face locker room pours out of the back into the ring, and hoist him in the air. He's holding an American flag.
Yeah.
There's confetti falling down. The fanfare would indicate that a title changed hands.
Right.
However, that was not the case.
No.
Yokozuna would hold that title until the following WrestleMania when he dropped it to Bret Hart after beating Lex Luger.
Lex didn't seem
earlier in the night.
He didn't seem worried or concerned or upset at all that he didn't win the title. Like usually these days, especially, you get a count out victory. It's like, why even bother? Why am I?
Well,
just
here,
like,
pull up that picture again. Pull up the picture we used.
let's see here. This one.
Look in those eyes.
That's a happy guy.
Oh, there's a little bit of emptiness in there.
You think so? Well, I think that's just Lex Luger in general.
No, I feel like there's like he knows. He knows like, why am I celebrating?
He's holding the American flag. He's
I
being
realize
hoisted
that.
up, dude.
I realize that, but he didn't win anything.
I don't know what's going on in Lex Luger's.
He didn't win anything.
Eyes, man. Yeah.
Get down to it. He didn't win anything.
Adulation. He won adulation.
That was short lived, however.
Well, in character though, he was written to not care, regardless of what you see in his eyes. There, he was written to like be very excited about this. But it's funny because like number one, the idea that a count out, you don't win a title on a count out is stupid, anyways.
I think that in New Japan, I think you win a title with via count out. I think. That's why countouts feel like they matter more over there.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know.
I think you can.
I've never heard that. I really doubt they've had that finish at any time.
Probably not.
Anytime recently with an actual title change. It's kind of interesting. In any event, yeah, it is really bizarre. And then, of course, after this, Lex and Bret both won the '94 Royal Rumble, both giving him a title shot at WrestleMania against Yokozuna, who still had that title. And, of course, instead of doing something like a triple threat match, no. They had two matches. Yokozuna had to fight two matches. One against Lex Luger early, which Luger lost. And then later on against Bret, which Bret won. At that point, he was new WWE champion. So, yeah, definitely an oddball ending. Not a very good match. You got two guys who really aren't very good wrestlers in the first place going at it. I mean, even Bret couldn't bring Yokozuna to a decent match at Mania 94 or Mania 93.
Nope.
So, anyways, their flirtation with Lex Luger was short-lived.
Yes.
It was about 3 months.
Yeah, more or less.
Anyway, moving on. Number 3. Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero, custody on a pole match.
Yes.
Custody above a ladder match.
Yes.
The great thing about that match is that it starts out, and Michael Cole, without a hint of tongue-in-cheekedness or irony or anything, he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time a child's custody will be decided."
It's totally straight-faced.
In a ladder match. Oh, totally. Yeah, it's completely straight-faced.
Near as I can tell, you can win a belt via countout in New Japan.
Interesting. That's cool.
I thought I remember hearing that.
I wonder if anybody has. Yeah, this was, again, I mean, just the fact that, I mean, we could literally move on at this point because I just said the words, a child's custody was determined this ladder match.
Surprised this isn't number 1.
Yeah, maybe it's up there. The match itself, obviously, look, you think of Rey Mysterio,
awesome.
Eddie Guerrero, match was terrific. It did have a bit of a wonk finish, which did actually protect Eddie Guerrero, who went on after this to challenge Batista for the big title, I think, the big gold belt.
Yeah.
So the month earlier, the Great American Bash, I think, is when Eddie, in the build to that, Eddie Guerrero had basically insinuated via story time that Dominic, Rey Mysterio's child, his son, was biologically his own. Eddie said, "I'm your poppy," and he said, basically says he'd built up this idea that he had this secret about Dominic, and it was kind of obvious what he was getting at. And he says, "I will reveal this secret when I beat Rey at the Bash." Rey won via roll up at the Bash, and Eddie at the SmackDown afterwards, or whatever, was like, "I don't care that I lost. I'm going to reveal the secret. Anyways, I'm Dominic's actual dad." There was some convoluted story going on there from some very soap opera-y stuff. Rey had to break it down to Dominic. "Yeah, I'm not your actual poppy. Eddie's your poppy. But I still love you. You're my son." Rey got very defiant and said, "Eddie, no, I'm his dad." His first word was dad, and he looked at me and he said, "So I know I'm his dad." Eddie produces custody papers. He wants Dominic. And the whole story is basically Eddie can't beat Ray, so he's trying to attack him in other ways.
Yes.
And so they agree to put custody papers above a ladder and have a ladder match for the custody of Dominic. Vicky Guerrero, prior to the match, tries to convince Eddie, hey, listen, man, I love you, but you're just doing this to hurt Ray's family. You're doing this to hurt him because you haven't been able to prove that you're better than Ray, and that's what this is really about. Eddie gets mad at Vicky Guerrero. They have the match. Eddie is on the cusp of winning when Vicky Guerrero comes down and shoves the ladder. Eddie falls, allowing Ray to climb the ladder. As Eddie goes after Ray, Vicky holds him back. Ray gets the briefcase, retains custody of Dominic. And then it's funny, at the end of the match, Ray was dicking around up there. He was like holding, if you watch it, he's like holding onto the chain and he's got the briefcase and he sort of like puts his feet on the ladder and then he just decides, screw it, he's going to fall. So he just falls, and I swear to God, it looked like he blew out his knee. It looked like a cornet fall.
Oh my gosh.
I think he was fine, but it looked really bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was just one of the little footnotes on that match. But yeah, they fought for a kid's custody.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
It's very weird.
Very soap opera-y.
It's oddly weird. Again, this is 2005.
Yeah.
That's when they were doing all that weird stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, moving on.
Moving on.
Number 2. The Undertaker versus NWO Undertaker.
Yeah, so this all starts at Royal Rumble 94 when True Undertaker takes
Undertaker.
on Yokozuna in a casket match. He loses. He disappears for a while to recuperate from a back injury.
That was real.
That was real.
Yeah.
And then WWF started airing vignettes about claiming from people saying, I've seen The Undertaker. I've seen The Undertaker. And then Ted DiBiase, who initially introduced Undertaker to the WWF back in 1990, brought a new Undertaker, except it wasn't real Undertaker.
No.
It was primetime Brian Lee as Undertaker with Phantom of the Opera mask on.
Yeah. Watching the recap package on this, too, is hilarious, too, because it's, number one, everything was cheesy back then. But, you know, they go around town asking a bunch of New Yorkers or talking to a bunch of New Yorkers who have all seen The Undertaker, various locations, a pizzeria, a flower shop. They had one bit where Ted DiBiase, wearing his full $1 Million Man outfit, was in a cemetery looking very self-conscious, having to deliver a promo about his new Undertaker.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? It might have been like a family over here trying to dump some flowers in their poor child's grave or something.
I know, and he's there trying to cut a promo.
Exactly. It was all pretty tasteless.
Yeah.
But everything was back then. This is like the height of the steroid trial.
Yeah.
So anyways.
So the match was made at SummerSlam 1994. Real Undertaker versus NWO Undertaker. And then during the actual show, because we hadn't seen Real Undertaker yet.
Right.
We hadn't seen him. And so during the actual, all throughout SummerSlam, you had Leslie Nielsen doing his Naked Gun type stuff, trying to find the Undertaker.
Yeah,
in the
there was
arena.
like a weird comedy angle with Leslie Nielsen inserted into it.
Which, when you think, oh, Undertaker versus Undertaker, there's all sorts of supernatural stuff involved. Let's get Leslie Nielsen involved.
Right. Like, at least get Columbo.
Yeah.
Who's
Peter
another
Falk.
good? Or like, you know,
good.
Robert Stack.
Yeah. Oh,
Bring him
yeah.
in.
Unsolved
That was
Mysteries.
like
That'd
the
be
height
good.
of Unsolved
Yeah,
Mysteries.
that'd be great. That'd been great.
There's any number of probably better options there.
Yeah, instead of taking a comedic angle to it.
94. That was 2 years. That was a year after X-Files debuted. It was pretty hot at the time. Could have brought in
David
Mulder.
Duchovny.
Mulder and Scully.
Yeah.
Or one of them, or both of
Yeah.
them.
Totally. Anyways, this match was hot garbage.
It was like a 9-minute match. It was
I know.
crap.
It was awful. It
It was
terrible.
all NWO Undertaker attempting to do Real Undertaker moves, and then Real Undertaker would stop him and then execute his own move.
The Real Undertaker moves,
and then I
guess.
think it was like 2 tombstones.
Yeah, and then Real Undertaker wins. You get some druids show up, put fake Undertaker in a casket, and take him off.
And that was it. There was no, like, okay, what's the ruse here? What's DiBiase trying to get at? What's he doing? Who is this other?
What's his end game? Yeah,
Yeah, what's exactly?
there was no end game.
There was no end game.
No.
Yeah, I don't understand what the stakes were. Like if NWO Undertaker would have beat Real Undertaker,
Would he be True Undertaker then at that
would
point?
he be actual Undertaker? Then would Real Undertaker then be NWO Undertaker?
Yeah, I don't think those stakes were ever laid out, man.
Like this was SummerSlam. Why didn't they go further with this? Why didn't they have NWO Undertaker?
The
beat
real
Undertaker?
main event of this show was Bret and Owen in the cage.
Yeah,
That went for like more than a half hour.
Yeah,
That was a real main event.
It was a
of the
real
show.
good match.
That was a good match.
But this was not a good match.
No, it was terrible.
And I don't know why they just didn't keep going with it. It's weird.
Well, I know why they didn't keep going with it, because it was terrible. and they had the blow off, and it was over. There's nothing more you
but
can do.
Everything they had was at the time was terrible. They didn't, they gave Luger like a good from SummerSlam to Mania run as like guy who might be champion.
American guy who could be champion.
Yeah,
I don't tell you, man.
This could have been hot, man.
No.
Who did Taker fight in Mania '95 then?
So that'd have been number 11? Yeah, that'd have been Mania 11. Yeah. Because 10 was the previous year. That was, you said 95?
Yeah.
So let me see, WrestleMania 11. Was he on the card?
Was it Nash?
It was. No, Nash fought HBK. It was King Kong Bundy.
Really?
Yep.
That was probably a crap match.
Yeah, probably was.
Why didn't they just have fake Undertaker fight him again? And or at least reveal who this fake Undertaker is.
Yeah.
He's part of the new $1 million corporation, or whatever they call it.
I'll tell you, man. I think you're expecting too much for a stopgap feud.
It's a pretty big deal, though.
It is. You'd think it wouldn't be a stopgap feud, but it's essentially what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you, man.
Prime time, Brian Lee.
Yep.
That's what it was. Anyways, let's get to number one, man.
One.
I'm excited about this. What do you think number one is?
Number one. I know what it is. One.
Backstage contract renegotiations gone wild.
Yep.
That's right. Team Hogan versus Team Slaughter.
This is SummerSlam 91. Oh, you forgot to mention Sid, guest referee. See this picture
so
here.
Originally I had Hulk Hogan / Ultimate Warrior versus Sergeant Slaughter and friends. And it was like running.
Yeah, it was way too long.
Way too long.
It was way too long.
It was a difficult one to.
So this is the conclusion of the Sergeant Slaughter as Iraqi sympathizer storyline.
It was the conclusion also of. It was also the conclusion of Ultimate Warrior's first stint with WWE.
Yes. Let's get to the storyline stuff first. So previous Mania, Hogan beat Slaughter for the WWF title. Of course, Sergeant Slaughter defeated Warrior for that same belt at the Rumble prior to that Mania. You would think Hogan beating Sergeant Slaughter for the belt would end that storyline. No, they milked another 3 months out of it.
Yeah.
And this was a blow-off.
That's heat. It's real heat. Yeah, it's dangerous heat, man.
Dangerous
it's
heat.
like highly offensive heat.
So you get Hogan and Warrior teaming up to take on Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan, who was the Iron Sheik.
Becca.
And no, Adnan was
Mustafa.
Yes, Colonel Mustafa.
Colonel Mustafa
was Iron Sheik.
Yeah, Adnan was
the manager guy.
Manager guy.
Yeah, sorry, I got that backwards.
I don't know what his deal was though.
Yeah. So it's a handicap tag match, and Sid's inserted there as special guest ref because when he was starting to make his way in WWE after some vignettes had aired. Yeah, Colonel Mustafa is the Iron Sheik.
Wow. General Adnan in 1971 defeated Andre the Giant in Baghdad.
Wow.
Under the auspices of his former friend at high school, Saddam Hussein. That is interesting.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah.
So where was I? This tag match. So let's get to the backstage stuff. So about a month. What?
He's still alive too.
Oh wow. About a month prior, apparently, Ultimate Warrior sent Vince a letter saying he would no-show SummerSlam 91 unless he was paid the sum of $550,000.
Has that letter ever been produced?
I don't know. Since then, both Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter have said that apparently there was talk, or at least consideration, of dealing with the matter physically. Is that the letter?
I don't know.
It was the letter they issued to Warrior firing him. Anyways.
Yeah, that's what this is, I think.
Anyways, Vince didn't want to have Hogan or Slaughter break Ultimate Warrior's legs or anything. He paid the Warrior the money, match happened, and then fired him right after SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Although the Warrior would later say that he was not fired, he was suspended and then quit. In protest, I'm going to believe WWF on this one.
Yeah, it's rare that you're like, oh yeah, no, I totally believe Vince here.
Yeah. And then apparently Vince thought, well, he had to pay the money because the fans were expecting the match, but apparently, quote, could not wait to fire him after the pay-per-view. During the match, the conclusion of the match, you got Warrior. He chases
Adnan and Mustafa.
Yeah, up the ramp with the
The
chair.
chair, yeah.
Hogan takes a handful of powder.
While Sid was paying attention to where Warrior was.
Yeah, throws it in the face of Sergeant Slaughter, hits a leg drop, gets the pin, 1, 2, 3, really fast count from Sid. Again, Hogan using the powder.
Okay,
Hogan was a heel the whole time.
Here's the funny thing, dude. The physics or the momentum of the match at that point lent itself perfectly to simply a big boot followed by a leg drop.
He didn't need to do.
How was throwing powder?
He'd already beat Slaughter once at this point.
How was cheating a necessity
He's
at
not.
this point?
He was always kind of a heel, man.
He just did it.
He just did it.
Dick.
Yeah. And so Warrior's backstage. He's out of the equation. He's probably getting fired by Vince right then and there.
Yeah.
And then you have Hogan and Sid in the middle of the ring celebrating. Because this is all...
Yeah, Warrior didn't come back out. And I'm still curious because they celebrated for a good 7 minutes. Because Sid was about to be gone. Of course, Hogan celebrates forever. And then he calls Sid, who's new to the WWF.
Well, they're grooming him to be the next top guy.
Right.
The next face of the company.
Right.
A huge baby face.
Right.
And as I said at the beginning of the show, Sid at some point decided, I don't want to be a baby face and be top guy and make all this money. I have more fun as a heel.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so he declined this massive push, massive payday, and instead wanted to be a heel. He hurt his bicep a couple months later, was gone to the following Royal Rumble anyways.
Yeah.
Had his Mania match against Hogan at WrestleMania 8. A god-awful match.
Oh,
it's horrible.
Yeah.
And he was coming and going the WWF several times.
Yeah, he just went to whoever would promise him time off for softball, he'd go there.
Or if they didn't promise him, he'd just quit or no show.
Right, exactly.
It's just between what happened backstage, the booking of the match.
I do wonder.
It's all just weird.
I'm sure the information is out there somewhere, but this Hogan celebration was so long. I wonder if Vince said, "Hey, keep them celebrating for 8 minutes.
I got some business to handle.
To handle." But no, it was actually a letter. So it was a letter sent to him. We have the letter. WrestlingInc.com has the transcript of the letter because Warriors, of course, was just scrawled in Warrior script. So it's kind of difficult to read, but they did actually break it down here. Wrestling Inc. broke this down back in 2014. This is what Warrior sent to Vince. Writing this is a different approach in expressing my feelings about the things we discussed the last 2 days under the pressure of TV, knowing that any second someone would be knocking on the door, etc. Every other avenue we tried, via phone, face-to-face, myself still walking away with unanswered questions. Always put off till a later date. Always with the same result. No result. Writing sometimes allows a person to express feelings or say things that don't come in conversations such as we have. So this is going to be... This, by the way, was a 3-page letter.
Oh, my gosh.
So let's skip to the juicy bit. The long-term plan has changed. At first, I was reluctant for what I believed were the right reasons, but once again, I went with what I knew I could believe in. Vince has never effed me. I dealt with what you thought was the best, no matter what, to the cost to me, no matter the countless number of sleepless nights there were to come, no matter the number of times I had to knock on your door with questions I should never have had. For the last 2.5 years, I should have... By the way, this is deep into the letter, so he's saying the same things he said in the first thing. In reaching this conclusion, I ask for these things. You say $500,000 for WrestleMania is unfair, then I say the last 8.5 years of not being compensated equally when I meant as much or more to the company was total BS and most definitely unfair. I have sacrificed more than $500,000, more than $1 million, even more in monies that should have been paid to mine receiving equal compensation as Hulk. I paid my goddamn dues long ago. I need not pay any more. I have given everything, and never once was there a knock on my effing door, whether to bullshit as a friend or help me through times of need, or you trusting to help through yours. I don't know what he's talking about here. I ask these things, Vince, and the answers must come, for the next event is upon you. Yeah. I want one, $550,000 release from the monies allotted to me to purchase my home. This will suffice as my WrestleMania 7 payoff, but let it be noted, it is not fair. I meant as much or more to that show as Hulk. I deserve to be paid the same. I know what Hulk will get. 2, 4 days off every other time period except pay-per-view only. 3, I want the same pay cut as Hulk gets on all pay-per-views Saturday night main events, Friday prime time, house shows, and proof of such. So he just wants the same amount as money as Hulk. I want numbers and proof of monies done on 1-900 Hulk, and likewise same pay cut. Was there a 1-900?
I guess there was a Hulk Hogan phone line.
5, same pay cut on all forms of merchandising. Because I have had to always knock on your door, words alone are not good enough. I understood. Let's see here. And then Jim. And then here's a very succinct letter from Vince McMahon. Dear Jim, this letter is in response to your facsimile to me of July 10th, 1991. You will be paid an aggregate amount of $550,000 for your participation in WrestleMania 7. With the exception of special events only, you will receive 4 days off every other time period. 3, your pay rate on house shows will increase 4 to 5% of the net. Merchandise royalties increased. Compensation for the Warrior 900 hotline will be identical to that of Hulk Hogan 900 hotline. Documentation for this will follow in writing within 1 week. I regret the turmoil you put yourself through, and you're agonizing over what you feel is fair compensation. Even though we have a difference of opinion over some of these matters, I am resolved to work with you in the same honest and equitable way that I always have. Furthermore, I would like to express to you my deepest appreciation and admiration for you as a performer, as a member of the WWA family, as a man, and as my friend, Vince. And, of course, he was so antsy to fire him after that letter.
Wow.
Could you imagine? He probably just told some lawyer, you draft that letter. Say all
Draft some legal BS.
Some BS, and then I'm going to fire him.
Wow. That's something else.
Yep. So, just weird shenanigans backstage. Weird leathery Hogan in the ring.
Weird industry.
Weird jacked Sid.
Yeah, man.
It was crazy, man. That's
a weird time.
It was a weird industry that we're kind of tangentially a part of.
Totally is.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Hopefully you guys will join us tomorrow at SummerSlam. And also remember, blowout sale right now. Friendomarket.com. Promo code blowout. 25% off. Everything. Go do it. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Talk to you later.
Bye.